consumers be cognizant of what they're buying, right? Now, the problem is that President Trump has made promises that he's going to cover everybody, that he has a beautiful health care plan, right? That's going to be better than Obamacare. So they are stuck between the promises that President Trump made, the perception of him in some quarters as an economic populist of the working man, right? And then the real agenda that a lot of conservative Republicans want, which again is not popular at all. So this unholy mess you see in front of you is the product of a president who made promises about covering everyone and making it better and lowering co-pays and lowering premiums, and conservatives who want higher premiums and higher co-pays because that is the way that they believe a true healthcare market would really work. So I don't think they're stupid. I think there's just a lot of tension within the party about what to do.
Yeah. Could you describe the health care received by all of our congressmen?
It's beautifully socialist.
Yes.
But they carry that with them when they leave office?
Yes, it is.
Whoa.
Yes.
And they are the ones that would vote for all of us to have minimal care.
Yes. That's true.
What I don't understand is when a congressman proposes legislation, they don't have the expertise for themselves, perhaps, because it's so complicated. They usually have a team on their staff who do the research. So what I don't get is that you're telling me that all these economists are saying that these figures of theirs are so ridiculously bad.
For the high-risk pools.
Yeah. What kind of teams do these congressmen have that are helping them research this to present to us as legislation? Who are they employing on their staff?
Well, sometimes they'll keep on farming out analysis until they get the numbers that they want, right, or the numbers that they can sell. There are assumptions that people make, and so I'll just give you a quick example. Tax policy is coming up as a potential debate. There is a debate among nerdy, liberal, conservative policy wonks in DC about something called static versus dynamic scoring. So dynamic scoring allows you to estimate the effects of a tax bill by saying these tax breaks are going to grow jobs and grow the economy, and they're going to pay for themselves. Right? So if you use what's called dynamic scoring in a model, you can have a tax bill where it doesn't add to the deficit because it generates all this new revenue from amazing economic growth and new jobs. If you use what's called static scoring, which more liberal economists use, they're like, well, historically there's not a lot of proof that tax cuts actually lead to the type of growth that the dynamic models assume. So we're going to assume that there's going to be very small changes in economic growth and unemployment, and we're going to say, okay, here's what the actual effect of the deficit and debt, right? So depending upon some of the assumptions that you make when you work these numbers, you can get a wide range of estimates. Yeah.
So I'll just say that all this makes me absolutely cuckoo, and I
haven't even got to the worst part.
So, and in my mind, I'm thinking, can we just ignore all of this and just pass the New York Health Care Act? Because in New York, we don't have to do any of this. Is that right? Am I right?
Yeah, we don't. So, but here's my deeply cynical but maybe accurate portrayal of all this. Passing this would make the New York single-payer healthcare bill more probable.
Yes.
Because it would scare the bejesus out of folks in this room and folks out there and people in Albany, right? So, but again, like that comes at real human cost, right? So, yes, it would really benefit people in New York State, but at the expense of just you can see down there, kicking 14 million people off of Medicaid over the next decade. And really, for the subsidies, the people who would get hurt most are people between 50 and 64, which again, politically you think is insane, but that's the way that they kind of structure some of the subsidies, is that the people who would really get hit hard because part of the ACA is that there was a ratio. You could only charge older people 3 times the amount that you charge a younger person. The GOP replacements lift that cap to 5 or 6 or 7 times, or lift the cap completely. So that means that if you're 64, right, the healthcare insurance companies, if one of these is passed, could charge you up to 5 times more what they charge a young person, or 7 times, depending upon what the ratio is. So one of the things the ACA did is that really it reduced the age penalty that a lot of insurance companies charge older patients because of their models that they were more likely to get sick by having that 3-to-1 ratio. But these new proposals widen that.
But can I just say one more thing about that? I'm really mainly concerned about what I can do. And when I hear all the Un-American Health Care Act business, I think, well, there's nothing I can do about that. There is nothing. I mean, I can call Gillibrand, I can call Schumer, you know.
Keep on calling.
Preach to
That
the
makes a
choir, and I
difference.
do that, and I do that, and it's easy. I
And
can do that 5 times a week, but
It may seem easy to you, but I can't tell you how effective it is. So I'll tell you, so in another life, I was a political consultant. And in another life, I worked in various representatives' offices. Here's what happens. The representative gets in from a long day of voting and raising money or doing whatever. And if the staff was doing nothing but fielding thousands of calls, the staff is panicky, they're angry, they're moody, like they're just pissed at the world because they had to spend, like here they are, they're 25, they went to DC with big dreams and they spent 8 hours listening to people giving them very well-reasoned arguments about like how healthcare is being ruined. And that was their day. And that was their day yesterday and that was their day before. That angst and anger gets passed right on to the representative. They get it at the door. Like there are 4 staff members, and the staff members of 8 hours of dealing with shit just unload on the representative. You have no idea what we dealt with
Yeah,
today.
but the phones never stop ringing
Yeah.
the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the representative feels that, right? So those calls work because of the personal effects it has on the staff members who then let that out on the representative.
how about, in addition to doing that, because I think everybody in this room can do it, I mean, if I can do it, even though my heart pounds every time I do it, you know, fine, but we can also push this New York health
Sure.
bill. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious to know,
You can move the debate. You can support candidates who promise Medicare for all. I mean, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders proposed that, and Senator and Secretary Clinton, you know, moved over.
so how come
Right.
we don't talk about that more in New York? Why don't, I mean, why, we spend so much time talking about the Un-American Health Care Act. Why aren't we, do you know, I mean, maybe you don't know, and I would expect you to know, but it's just a question that comes to my
Well,
mind.
because it's on the agenda, and it's what's getting the media coverage, right? So like this is, you know, this is what the talking heads in DC are consumed with, and therefore that's what, you know, gets picked up by the media. But, so I was at a conference a month ago, and I guess they're just one, I mean, if you want to, again, call, they're one Republican co-sponsor away from the New York Singlepayer.
For a majority, and
Yeah.
that has to get out of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Just
that's a big use of time.
I'm just gonna make a time check here, it's about 8:30, and I don't know how much time you wanna spend on the rest of your presentation, but I think it's great that we're having some questions, but
Yeah.
we need to figure out how much time to spend on each.
Sure. You know, I'll have a
Trying to
couple more
get that
questions,
by
and,
before
like,
9.
and I'm fine just finishing on this slide.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
got
then the
the
worst
best
case
part
scenario.
coming.
The
worst part.
The worst part is, it's on this slide about how this bill's paid for.
In a worst-case scenario, if the Republicans somehow ram this or some version even worse through, what's the time frame that it would take to implement this? I'm 63 and a half. Am I going to be paying $12,000 next year for health insurance?
Some of those things, yeah, some of the things like the insurance premiums would be, if it was passed next week, it would be felt immediately. I mean, here's the good news, I don't think it'll be passed next week. And here's all the moving parts to this. Private healthcare insurance companies start setting premium and copay prices starting in about a month. So they need information from the federal government about like what the parameters of the market's gonna look like for them to make decisions about where to set premiums and copays. It seems as if the healthcare insurance companies are gonna be alone in the dark, and who knows? I mean, I imagine they're thinking, who knows what's gonna happen with this? So I don't know how that will affect their pricing of premiums and copays, because they have to make a decision. I mean, based upon how quickly this went down, I imagine that they are betting, although they might be cautious, that there will be no large changes to healthcare, and they'll, keep premiums and copays pretty steady. But, that would be a risk for them to take, because they are dealing right now with uncertainty. So things like that, as far as the subsidies and the changes to premiums and copays, those unfortunately would be in effect sooner. What would be pushed back was changes to Medicaid. I mean, in all the Republican versions I've seen, those changes don't start till 2019. Yes. Oh, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I wanna hear the end of it.
Okay. So,
Good discussion.
so a couple other things. So with the no individual mandate, you still, in order to make healthcare insurance markets work, you need incentives for people who are healthy to get into the pool to pay for sick people. So the Republicans don't have the individual mandate because they ran against it for 8 years, but they have something that basically is an individual mandate. And it's called the continuous insurance requirement. And what this would do is that it would require everyone to keep and hold insurance. And if you got laid off and if you lost insurance and you were off insurance for more than 2 months, when you went back and got health insurance again, they would allow health insurance companies to charge you a penalty, which they would call a 30% premium. So health insurance companies can charge you 30% more because you were out of the market for more than 2 months. And this is supposed to be incentive for people who are young and healthy to get in. Now, this is really poorly designed, just from a kind of a policy standpoint, because it penalizes people like after they've let it lag. It doesn't get people who are young and healthy into the market to start paying for older sick people. So, but it's something that the health insurance companies fought for. There will be a reduction in the essential benefits. That was part of the ACA, and states could get a waiver to decide what essential benefits are. And this would really affect women's reproductive rights. It would affect, long-term care. A lot of things that, the ACA made new as far as what they deemed essential. Things like drug addiction, right? Opium. So a lot of 30% of people who are addicts are getting help through Medicaid coverage right now. So there are slashes to Medicaid that would really affect people living under the opioid epidemic. So there are things that would probably be cut from the essential benefits in this plan. And the biggest thing is that tax subsidies in the ACA were based upon income. Simply that the poorer you were, the higher the benefit you received for getting help buying insurance. Now, this would be moved from income-based to age-based. So the older you were, the more assistance you would get, regardless of income, right? So someone who makes $20,000 or living off $20,000 and is 64 would get the same subsidy that Warren Buffett would get, or Bill Gates, who might be of similar age. So again, this is the biggest shift in the subsidies. Now, the biggest thing is that the way that Obamacare paid for the increase in healthcare benefits were 14 new taxes on the rich and corporations. All those go away. Every single one of those in the Republican plans go away. So taxes go down on the rich, taxes go down on tanning salons, taxes go down on private health insurance companies and private healthcare companies. All those go away. So how do they pay for it? They pay for it through cuts to Medicaid, again, which is the health insurance program that is targeted towards the poor. So how do they pay for it through Medicaid? The ACA expansion that you see in the previous slide ends in 2019. and it would end the open-ended federal commitment to cover states' Medicaid costs. So the way the Medicaid works now is that however many people New York State has on the Medicaid rolls, like the federal government pays for those people in whatever ailments they have in a given year. That would be changed to either a block grant, where each state would get a certain amount of money, or you get it per cap. So however many people you have on Medicaid, you would get a certain amount, like $14,000 per person, and that's it. Once you're out of that money as a state, you gotta go find the money to pay for the Medicaid healthcare costs somewhere else. And that would come, you think about thinking with devolution, for states that would come from education, K through 12, it'd come from the prison system, it would come through roads, right, the things that states spend money on. Yeah?
Doesn't each county pay a portion of Medicaid?
They do. Like some counties have a tax that goes toward, but mostly it's the federal government, and this kind of refers to the expansion. So the way that the ACA incentivized the Medicaid expansion is that they basically covered all the costs, like 99% of the cost of the expanded parts of Medicaid. Yeah. And the real human cost, the real financial and human cost here, so the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan entity, estimates that these changes would cut Medicaid spending by $839 billion and reduce the Medicaid rolls by 14 million people over the next decade, right? So that is how some of these new benefits are paid for just drastic cuts to Medicaid, which again, is healthcare insurance for the most vulnerable population. Okay. All right. On that happy note, thank you very much for your attention.
Before we go, I wanted to make sure that people get a chance, if they want to sign up on one of the clipboards over there. That would make it possible for you to get more ongoing information about more teach-ins, but also about all of these issues and connect with the coalition and other resources. Also, I think there's a way to continue to be in touch with this group, and I want to thank them again for coming. And finally, we really appreciate your interest, and we want to find out what are some more issues that you'd like to see at future teach-ins or future community forums. You can either write them down there on clipboard where you're signing up, or you can let one of us know what you're interested in. So I'm gauging that everybody appreciated this one, and I'm hoping that we can
Someone's got one with my camera.
more and get more people done.
We're booking our summer tours.
Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate it.
And you almost, in my vindictiveness, I think,
weird, like, you know, like when the
Oh, yeah.
and they like
Yeah, I like the sound, definitely like the sound of that. Okay. You know me.
That's it.
Oh, yeah. Get hired Yeah, right.
I don't know whether we need to help work these
I don't think so. I think when you talk to her at a point,
you know, like yesterday.
Yes, he seems like he's high demand. I had another question.
Very strange. You know, the whole thing about being right, like it's not going to be right.
you don't want to be wrong, man. My wife, you're not referring to the question, well, I did it right, the right thing. And if you don't, then we do it right, just send me an email.